Televiewers, welcome to this other edition of Prime Hour on My Media Prime. In the program today, we are going to be asking the question as to what to do to stop the killings in the troubled southwest and northwest regions. We are going to be discussing this with our panelists who already are in the house. Dr. Nick Ngwanyam is an educationist and a social entrepreneur, very interested on issues touching on society, and a host of others. We're glad to have you with us once again, Doctor.
Thank you very much. I decided to come on the set again today because we are talking about a very passionate subject, these killings that have been going on, and we have to look for ways and means of stopping that killing. It's really not helping anybody, and it's just making a bad situation worse. And I would think that in the course of our talk, you might see that we are repeating a couple of things, going over a lot of things, and probably saying them in different words or different ways. But you would understand that the truth is only the truth, and it doesn't matter what you do. That's all you can talk about is that truth. And if we don't speak the truth, we're not going to get out of this.
Also with us for the very first time is a teacher all the way from Boya, Mr. Gentle. Is his name? Good evening and welcome.
Thanks very much, Mr. Leonard. Thanks very much. I'm impressed to be here in front of my elderly man, doctor himself, and then I'm happy to be here again for my Media Prime first time. I'm right away from Boya, and then we are Cameroonian. We need to discuss issue related to Cameroon.
Okay.
Foreigners will not come to discuss issue related to Cameroon.
True.
We Cameroonian must solve our problem.
It's
I'm
true.
happy to be here again once.
Okay, we are expecting a representative from the Cameroon Renaissance movement, CRM, in the person of Kumanganji. He was actually delegated by his political platform to represent them on today's edition of the program. I'm going to start with you, Dr. Nick Ngwanyam. The blood has not stopped flowing. We keep counting deaths every day, every second, every hour. Our mothers keep wailing and crying. Our brothers and sisters are dying.
It's really very sad, and if we must come and talk about it, it's because we are really very concerned and we want it to stop. It's very, very important. And if we were to just let things continue the way they are going now, before long, probably it's with my head that will go. So if you see fire in your neighbor's house, you've got to do something about it, and if you think it doesn't concern you, sooner or later it will consume your own house. We have been shouting for the past 4 years, but it looks like things are taking the turn for the worse now, and we have to increase our concerns. We have to come on and try to see what we can do to bring peace to our nation. It's very, very important. And what we must say is that everybody has sinned and fallen short of that glory. The people have sinned. The government has sinned. The nation has sinned. The people have gone after Odeshi. The government has forgotten God. And we are all in a mess. And until we follow the precepts of God, and until we begin to know why we are here, and until we begin to know what love means, what truth means, what respect of life means, until we begin to realize that, we cannot make a human being, we can rebuild, but we cannot rebuild a human being, until we begin to realize that death is not something that we should enjoy, we should fool around with. If we have lost our minds, if we have lost our sensitivities, and we don't really care about these things, then we are finished. I don't know how best to put it, but we ought to become human again. We should all step back, be it the people, be it the fighters, be it the government, be it whoever, Amber, whatever, people in the diaspora. It's time for us to think and do things right. It's just unfortunate that the violence has been spiraling, and spiraling is a whirlwind, and it's been spiraling, and things are really going out of hand. And like we said the other day, if we don't do something about it, before you know it, Rwanda will be at our doorsteps.
Okay, Mr. Gentle, the killings keep on perpetrated by both sides. We record deaths almost every day from across the two regions. Isn't it time to stop the killings?
Mr. Moderator, I think it's time for the killing to come to an end. I have different programs in Boya where I keep telling my panelists that I don't want me issue of blame games. I don't want me to be saying that this party A is better than party B. I hate, since 2016 to 2020, we have keep recycling blames games, and lives are going. Life of a common man is going from 2016 to 4 years today. We keep saying A did this, then Gabo incident, we call names. Now in Moyoka incident, we call names. I was surprised already. I passed in Tiko and there I saw women along the street crying and going to the Joe's office because some 3 kids who went to check to pick sinners, was one of them, 3 of them were shot and 1 died immediately. So I think, Mr. Moderator, we are not here to be talking about blame games. For 4 years we have been talking about blame games. We are here to talk on what can be done, what is a solution to put an end to crisis in Northwest and Southwest. I think it's time for Cameroonians to sit up. I think it is time for Cameroonians to put an end to politics. It's time for Cameroonians to put an end to continuous killing that is going on of a common man who is unable to survive on her own. I think, look at this woman who was killed in Moyoka. With 35 years with kid left behind. It's maybe a farmer, a subsistent farmer doing agriculture to survive. And then again, with poverty, they kill her with poverty. I think the main issue that we should be talking, that we should focus on, is to put an end to this crisis, is to stop killing. We need to put an end to killing in Northwest and Southwest. Nobody have no right to end the life. Even Ambas, even Cameroon military, they are all Cameroonians. We are all Cameroonians, and it's high time for Cameroonians to stop. We are making more clear of ourselves internationally. People are laughing at Cameroonians, killing other Cameroonians. I think it's time that we should come to a discussion that will put an end to this crisis. Even there's no solution to that crisis, killing needs to come to an end, so that a poor man can be able to survive and go to the farm. People are afraid to go to the farm because they will be attacked. Those 3 kids who were killed in Tiko, they went but to pick snares, and they were suspected as
victims of stray bullets.
Victims of stray bullets, and one of them who died, one certain Eno who died, the child who's 12 years, is the only breadwinner of the family. So I think we are here to what can be done. There's a need for killing in North and South to come to an end.
Yeah, Dr. Gentle raises an issue there. He talks about the need to end the blame game, because that is where this whole issue is rotating around.
Yes, it's very, very important. The blame game is something that we have to learn to step out of. You know, I blame you, you blame me. Is this tic-tac kind of thing? You know, I hurt you, you hurt me. I pull your eye, you pull my eye. You know the kind of thing that used to happen in the Old Testament in Moses' days. No, if we continue like that, it's not going to work. We need to come to a place where we are reasonable, where we think, and where we behave like human beings and do things the right way. You know, you can burn houses or you can do whatever. Those ones can be replaced, but killing human beings just for the fun of it doesn't help in any way at all. It doesn't help to advance your cause. Molesting other people doesn't help to advance your cause. So we have to, in one way or the other, see how we overcome this human tendency, this anger that goes overboard and allows us to be behaving in such a barbaric way. It doesn't help in any way. I was telling some people the other day, and I was saying, look, with the Anglophone problem, we really need to, you know, be true to ourselves and solve that problem. And I was saying that even all Anglophones, be they 5, 6, or 8 million, even if all Anglophones were killed, that still will not be a solution to the Anglophone problem. And Anglophones killing other Anglophones or killing the military and saying it's the Odeshi that prescribed it, I don't think so. And there was this other thing, you know, where people begin to argue that the Anglophone fight or whatever is a God-ordained fight. I don't believe that. The question I would want to ask people who have those views is, if it was a God-ordained fight, then what is Odeshi doing in it? Because Odeshi is the spirit of death. If it was a God-ordained fight, great and good, to whom did God give that message? What was the content of the message, and what were the strategies? So we just use God's name in vain and then try to cover up for our mistakes, and a lot of mistakes we have made, be they on the part of the diaspora and the Anglophones and the Ambas or whoever, and then on the part of the government, who bears most of the responsibility.
Tamai Jarvis, the killings have still gone on in the southwest and northwest regions. Today, we got information that 2 vehicles were burnt around Moliwe, a Toyota Picnic and a Toyota Runs and a bike. Yeah, we still see the society, the community, the common man paying the heaviest price for what politicians are doing.
It's sad to add to the series of issues we've had today. Ikata to suffer.
Yeah. Ikata and
Moyoka again, so suffer some casualties from the civilian perspective. I think that the politicians, it's time good enough for everyone to be objective, because even the non-state armed groups, they are playing politics as far as the lives of the common man is concerned. I was in Muyuka. That was on Friday. I think we spoke with the lady, the mother of the lady who was killed. I spoke with the mother, I spoke with the sister, I spoke with the senior child she left behind. She had 2 children, and the female who is about 13 years old. And you got the stories they narrated, how brutal the killing was, and how they are already living in Muyuka, and how they intend to live their life is not something that you are in diaspora, you would like to be in their shoes. And it's not something that you are in Yaoundé, you like to be in their shoes, because they said that lady was taken within 15 minutes, interrogated and killed, just within 15 minutes. And they came and told the mother that, now on a black leg there, now go take you for junction. And imagine the kind of trauma that others around, not just the immediate family. This is what needs to be done. I think it's time good enough for us to ask ourselves if we are fighting to protect Cameroon, cradle of our fathers, the land of promise. Is this still the land of glory? Because if we want it to be the land of glory, we must do things that will glorify the land. And that, I always say that the Anglophone culture is a culture of respect, is a culture of dignity, is a culture that accepts intellectual debate, is a culture of democracy, is a culture of freedom of expression, is a culture of freedom of speech, is a culture that nurture or train individuals to see the growth of an institution than the downfall. But when we look at the history that is being written by both the non-state armed groups and the armed groups, it's coming into question whether those who say they are fighting for the Anglophone culture and those who say they are fighting for the land of promise, land of glory, if they are fighting for that same land of promise, or if they are fighting for the same culture they are protecting. Because a case in hand, I think let me just say something, Mr. Morito. Okay, no, go ahead. Let me land. A case in hand is another lady too who narrated an ordeal in Muyuka, how the brother was adopted by the non-state armed group, beaten. And on allegations that he has been having frequent visit to the military barrack, and the issue is simply because he has someone that is locked up in the military barrack, so he's struggling to see that that person is released. So he has been going there constantly, and he's been tagged that maybe he's struggling to negotiate the brother's freedom in exchange of information to be given to the military so that they can come and slaughter. My question now is, does it mean that if someone is arrested or kidnapped, arrested by the military, you should not go to see how you can get your loved one released? Our fear, if we say we are fighting to protect the innocent civilian, we are fighting that they should have equal justice, equality, freedom of speech and expression. But that same freedom, you are suppressing it. That same expression, you are suppressing it. That same developmental idea, you are suppressing it. Then you are not fighting for freedom. Again, both sides are doing the same thing. So my plea is that the politicians should keep aside politics and look at the land of promise, land of glory, land of honor. And the same people who are fighting for the Anglophones should keep aside their ideological differences and look at the common man who is there and whom they say they want to protect to be the same person in land of promise, land of glory, regardless of their own land or whatever they have as an ideology. To me, I think we must stand out that.
You come in briefly before I get on. You had something to add?
Yeah, I think. I feel bad when especially when they're making mention of politicians, because honestly, honestly, these issues where it is today, because unfortunately for politicians they have been unable to put an end to or to come together. When I talk politician, I mean it's high time that all Cameroonian politicians, for properly, because one of the obstacles, one of the hindrance to Anglophone crisis or other crises that are going on in Cameroon, because politicians are not coming together. Whatever they come in to solve a problem, they put their ideologies for their own political interests. They don't come like to put an end to the life of people, common man who is dying in north and southwest. They bring in their ideologies, and when it clash, they now start shooting behind. So I think for politicians, because I had a plan. We'll continue with debate. I had a plan.
We are going to be discussing about what politicians should be doing to end the crisis. I thought you had something.
No, okay, no problem.
Yes. But now, Dr. Nick Ngwanyam, tomorrow we are going to be looking at this call by the Human Rights Watch for sanctions to be meted out on those responsible for the senseless killings. But my question to you is, Human Rights Watch says people should be sanctioned. Is it also a way to tame the killings, or the killers, or those calling the shots? Should their call be heeded too?
Well, what is very certain is when they make those calls, is because somebody must say something, and that's all they can do to say, look, you'll be punished. They're reminding you of what the consequences are, and they're also hoping that if they can say that, and then you have a listening ear, it will save the lives of many people. But what you can be very certain about is that statistics and evidences are being collected and stored, and what will happen at the end of the day is that when this war will come to a stop, because it must, whether we like it or not, then people have been hiding behind for whatever reason and causing all this death and violence. Know that you will be punished. That's all that's all about. If you are not being punished now, don't think that just because you are not being punished now,
Human Rights Watch says they should be punished. Should these instances wait till 5-10 years later to go punish them?
Well, they should be punished. They should be punished. That's the principle. They should be punished. But when and how, it's a process. They cannot just come, when the guns are going all over and get in there and take you and punish. So, and they are not, when they say punished, to be punished, it's not like us here. They are not boots who will just go in and pick 1 or 2 people and shoot and kill for doing. No. It's, when the process of peace sets in and the guns stop, and then the storms are clearing out and the nimbus clouds are moving away, then it will become very clear who did what, and you will be punished.
Okay, so the punishment is going to come in after the setting up of a special court? Is that what
well, but what you can be very certain
in Rwanda?
Yes, what you can be very certain about is that because the tension seems to be going up, we're going to have a more aggressive international reaction, and things are going to stop much sooner than later.
Okay.
Yes. Morito, let me just add something to the issue of Human Rights Watch. I think that's why I keep praying that Cameroonians should come back to normalcy to solve their problems. I don't always like the issue of international community organization interrupting to solve problems, because on most occasions they have a very long process to do that. With the outbreak of COVID-19, the UNSG, Antonio Guterres made it clear that conflict should come to an end in any different part of the world. Any armed groups or any conflict in different, they should lay down their arms, let them unite to put an end to COVID-19. But unfortunately, crisis is still going on in Northwest and Southwest. What have they done? It's usually show that their own process, we are not refusing that they don't react, but their reaction is too very slow, and human life is going. So
are you saying that people should not be sanctioned, or that they are
no, I'm not saying. My problem is I'm not refusing. My problem with them is that their procedure for sanction, it's too lengthy, and crimes continue, and people keep dying. So we want something immediate reaction.
But Human Rights Watch says people should be sanctioned. How? But those who are supposed to sanction, what are they waiting for? They have to wait till, as he says, that until the crisis is over before.
There is what we call SOP. Doctor is here, which is standard operating procedure. It has every conflict has its SOP, and sometimes you don't just dive in. So if someone is sick or you have an emergency, from the health perspective, because the person is unconscious, doesn't mean that you should just jump in and get the defibrillator and start pumping the chest and all those things.
You have to observe.
Yes, you have to
be
follow
sure of
an
what
SOP.
doing.
You have a standard operating procedure. The fact is that we see it as slow, but they are standard, and this standard comes in because states have the autonomy, they have their independence, and states have in multinational convention, and states have yes. So you must pass through some channel. Sadly enough, that's the situation. But like Napoleon said, human beings are ruled by toys. And it is on that basis that you see where you have to understand why and how does international intervention comes in. And there are principles that govern it. The standard operating procedure states that there is category like we have for earthquake, metal scale, category 1, category 2, category 3. You start observing the first issue is we have been briefed as to what is happening in Cameroon. We have our eyes on Cameroon. When you move to the next phase, you start hearing statements like we call on Cameroon government to see how they can resolve the conflict. We call on Cameroon government. It's not like they don't understand that there is another faction of this conflict. Now, when they discover that it has gone to category 4, then you start seeing that we want to encourage both parties. Both parties start coming in. When they discover that it is category 5, where we start moving from the it start moving to a basic level, because when you look at this aspect of 5, category 5 tells you that hey, this is the moment where we call now for dialogue without preconditions, and at that level they still believe that the state has that power. And when they are doing this, they are making negotiation between countries that you have trade or agreements with that may hinder their direct intervention. And they are doing that because they don't want to, first of all, violate their own treaties. Because you don't know the treaties Cameroon have signed with, let's say, the United Nations, let's say the European Union, let's say France, and let's say America, some trade deals, and all these things take time. So you have to bypass all these checks. And when you ensure that you bypass all these checks on one condition, that is category 6, where you have to go direct, and that involves where you have 1,000 deaths on a single day. And when it's too catastrophic, then you see they come with direct intervention. In cases where you see, like in Libya, as they quickly intervene, they quickly intervene because Libya had the agreement between Libya and some international and some countries were limited. Gaddafi was mostly compacting Libya to be for Libyans and have few trades with others.
But that decision was taken at the United Nations.
It was taken at the United Nations Security Council. It required
just one veto.
Because, that's what I'm saying, that was taken at the United Nations Security Council simply because they did not have some of these agreements that could hinder. But again, like I would say, that we should not feel like when a conflict happens, UN will just jump in, pam. UN is not a janky group.
My problem is that people are there for 4 years, Mr. Leo. People are there.
That's a sad reality.
That process. They will not the sanctions.
But Dr. Nick, how do we solve it, since the international community will need to go through the standard operational process, like he is saying? Now, do you think that there is need for education on international conventions that guide armed conflict on both sides for people to know, especially what you said earlier on? Because seemingly some persons will not know that even if you are engaged in a war, there are some standards, or there are some things. There are some things that you're supposed not to be doing.
That's right. We need a lot of education of the military, education of the civilian population, education of the civilian fighters who are bearing arms, education of our brothers in the diaspora. Everybody has got to be on the same page as to the rights and obligations that we must live by. And we have to, besides what is written elsewhere, we have to realize that we are children of God. Whether you believe in God or not is another story, but know that there is God, and it doesn't matter what you do here. God, you're going to have some questions to answer at that level. It doesn't matter who you are, be you the president, the general, the prime minister, the whatever, the AMBA, the diaspora commander, or whatever. They will get to that point. And so it's very important for us to step back and then manage our anger. Don't just react, I pluck your eye, you show up and pluck 2 eyes, I come around, I pluck 4 eyes, you come around and pluck 10 eyes. We cannot, the violence is spiraling out of control, and we have to really step back a little bit and take care of our emotions, otherwise it becomes very dangerous. It's really very, very sad, and education is of the essence of everybody. And like we were saying, You know, sometimes we forget that we are just as vulnerable. You know, you would see a lot of people talking, might be from Norway, from America, from Belgium, and they are shouting on social media and breathing hot air. I call it hot air because you have the capacity to shout and breathe hot air because you are away from the scene of action. That's why you can say anything and then you will get away with it. But the bottom line is, another day is going to come when you will not even be able to utter a word. When they would ask you and play your own videos and you will listen to the incitement that you have been inciting for others to go kill. And don't forget, when you incite people to go kill, the blood of the people who are killed is on your head and on the head of your children for 4 generations. So when you kill other people and you love it and you enjoy it, know that you are inviting death to your own self and to your house, and know that it will come one way or the other. Thanks.
Yeah, but education is essential, like you are saying. How do we educate these persons who today are involved in committing some of these gross human rights violating human rights?
The education is good, but it will be most effective if we do parallel things. What do I mean? The government of Cameroon has got to sit up now, not tomorrow, and bring an end to this war. This war can only be ended by the government of Cameroon by doing what is right, what is just, and what is good. Somebody has got to take responsibility for it and stop the war. Do what is right and stop this war. It's very, very important. Once we stop the war, then it becomes easier to educate the people.
So no education can take place now?
No, education is taking place now. What we are doing now is education. You know, it's not like somebody is going to come from Mars or from Moon to educate. No, it's what we are doing now is education, and the environment is not conducive. The word is going out, but tensions are running high, and people don't have a listening ear. So there must be a green light out there. There must be a torch out there pointing the nation in the right direction, in the direction that the nation has to go to. And when that is done, there will be reason for people to have hope and reason for people to look up to something. You know, when you are playing with a kid, let's say a kid has got a dangerous knife or a sharp object, and the kid doesn't know that object could hurt it, and the kid is so passionate about it. You negotiate with the kid, and then you give the kid something, either a rounded toy that looks very attractive, a biscuit or something, and the reason you are giving them like that is to distract them from this other thing. Not that you are deceiving them, but you want them to have something better. You are negotiating so that you can take away the sharp object that can hurt the child. That is exactly what we've got to do.
Yeah, but I'm talking about education. Those involved, say the military, who are also involved in some violations, rights violations. We have separatist fighters. Are they not receiving instructions from some of their leaders? And isn't it necessary for these leaders to reiterate the need to respect what the Geneva Conventions actually calls for?
It's very unfortunate because what we observe with the Amber boys who are killing, and then the military who are also doing things. If you look at them from the surface, you know, you don't seem to get what is going on. But if you were to leave them with their actions and acts the way they are, and then you step back, you know, and look at the background of where they come from, who are they, and then find out what is happening generally in the country, you will realize that the country is ill at ease with itself. You will realize that many people who join some of these groups, you know, by virtue of their training, they didn't really understand the human being and many of these things. And you know, when they have their own issues, and just because you have been trained as a military man to kill doesn't mean that you kill at any given time or just take pleasure in killing. So you know, yes, we need some training. But when you see the level of corruption in the country, you know, even when there is no war, generally in the public, the way two civilians will react to each other when they have an issue of contention, that counts. How have we taught our citizens to behave to towards each other. Is love really, and is love and living together something that we really appreciate? Do we treat each other with respect? So all of these matter. So I would say that the background is a little bit rotten, and we need to do something about it.
Okay. Yes.
Let me ask something. I think when Dr. makes statement of the issue of morality, love, and peace among Cameroonians, I think it's rather unfortunate that sometimes what we are doing today, there's an impact tomorrow. Unfortunately, in most schools, I'm a teacher, in most schools, Cameroonians, especially from Form 5, they don't take religious studies serious. It was supposed to be composed like French, English, and math. Because with religious studies, you have the fear of the Lord. And if they don't take it today, they have not been taking yesterday.
Are you saying that these students are morally bankrupt because of the 45 minutes of moral religious studies? Most of us in Cameroon start going to church at very tender ages now. Are the preachers not giving us enough moral lessons?
You say it's good. You say most, not all. But I'm still saying that an additional morality is teaching religious studies, making it to be compulsory, like French, English, and math. For the yesterdays, the impact is today. Most of the way our youth on Cameroon, yes, those today who are at the reaction today mean that they lack that morality. Our doctor is saying that fear of the Lord is not there because religious studies not made compulsory.
But we have many more churches. Most of them are the churches.
No, I'm still repeating that it's an additional. We're not refusing about church. Religious study will be an additional. What I'm saying, because today, even now, the religious study is not compulsory, meaning that this particular generation, again, they had a negative impact tomorrow because they don't have that fear of the Lord, that unity, that love among them. And I will come back to say about it's something that we need to take it seriously.
Is it really an issue of religion?
No, I'm just saying it's when I talk about morality.
We find many pastors who are leading this groups.
Maybe I come in.
When you say pastor, I don't understand.
Maybe
I'm not. Yes.
Maybe I come in at that level of the question you talked about education. I think the education that we need right now should be a kind of robust education as to the protection of civilians and the respect of women, children, and non-combatants in faced with armed conflict, which is greatly lacking, especially at the level of both sides. One would have believed that the military, on the other hand, should be well placed to see that collective punishment is reduced, and to see that breaking of homes is reduced, to see that getting people illegally arrested and asking for ransom is reduced, because we should see more of these practices, though it's not we should see for people who are not trained. But now we see it for people who are well trained and people who are not trained, and this is like, it's like both parties are on a competition as to how to violate rights. Because today you see a video from the non-state armed group, within the next few minutes a video now from the other side. You ask yourself, is this kind of a race or running a race? Now this is what needs to be done at this level. The Yabachos, the Beniza Kangwa, the Eritat or the Magbarata should understand that they are the lions that are writing our history now. And because they are writing our history now, you must be careful in the kind of education you give your boys. You hear videos like Dr. Ni said, people say, do this, do that, do that. And at the end of the day, when you play that video in the next 5 years, it will have its negative impact on this family. Remember that if you kill one person in an armed conflict, one civilian, you have affected an entire generation and a family for years and years to come. There are people who get angry and pick up arms. There are people who just get angry, and that's why you see the level of sellout is high in both sides. People are not selling out simply because they hate the struggle. They're selling out simply because they have been poorly treated. How should this education start? First, it should start with the way the military people are being trained. Civics and ethics should be inculcated in a different way than is being taught today. When I mean by civics and ethics, secondly, those who are training our military officials to train them on means of negotiation, how to resolve conflicts within a hostile environment. I understand that it's difficult to separate a hostile from a non-hostile when you're on combat, but these are things that can be reduced. For example, when you go to look at the way raids are being done. On Friday morning, before I got to Muyuka, there was a raid in Muyuka, and you got the stories of people who were raided, whose homes were raided. You ask yourself, Moyoka was coming back gradually before the incident of this young lady. Moyoka was full. But now, go to Moyoka is deserted. It's simply because of the education that is being given to these people. Because if you don't understand that one person commit or an act is committed in an area, how do you go now for arrest in that area in such a way that you don't scare the people away to leave their environment? How do you go now for raid in an area that is struggling to come back, life is struggling to return, and you go and instill fear? What we see now is more of instilling fear to Moyuka. I did a documentary in Moyuka showing how life is returning to normalcy. But now I went back to the same Moyuka on Friday. It was a total different ball game. The same with the corner is total different ball game. And why? Because of collective punishment. How do we engage in collective punishment at a time when we want people to come back? The same with the state, non-state armed groups. Before, people were calling them our boys, they were passing and people were clapping in the market. Whoa, whoa, whoa. But now what's the situation? People are calling them those boys, those boys, those boys. Why? Because of the fact that abuses, the people are now being maltreated. And if this continue, we will have more of supposedly black leg. Today, Leo, the sad thing is that the education that the activists are giving the fighters is very wrong. You disagree with them in terms of their modus operandi, you're a black leg. You date someone who is a military, you're a black leg. You stand for two-state federation, you're a black leg. You stand for confederation, you're a black leg. You have a brother who is a military officer, who was a military officer before 2017. The fact that he's still a military officer, you're a black leg. Amber General just need to look at your wife and he likes your wife, you're a black leg. So this black legism has changed the dynamics as to where we are the struggle is struggling or the struggle. So it's a way that the activists have to redefine their modus operandi in terms of black legism. And all the black have one thing in common. It's like get killed. In our culture, Anglophone culture, we believe in what we call banishing. They banish people without even touching them.
We are all clamoring for justice. We want justice.
So, no, we are just saying that worst case scenario, if you must, why don't you banish that person?
Okay. Good evening to everyone in the studio. I'm Asa Nelson from the Pasi village. Mr. Liu, we have set on this platform time without number that it's high time we should put an end to this senseless war. Joseph Weber said it clearly that they will kill to the least and solution will not come out. So what can stop this war is the truth. If the government puts the truth at the center of this war, it will not take weeks to end this war. Mr. Leo, good evening to you. Good evening, sir. Asks Dr. Nick if Southern Cameroonians has their rights as to self-determination and country or has free themselves accusation. How do guys evaluate the damages caused on who have burned down more than 300 villages, more than 3,000 deaths every day? I'm sure Dr. Nick will have to answer you, though you did not give us your name. This Ngupol Ngong writing from Kumba says, greetings to you all. I'm Ngupol Ngong from Church Street, Kumba. Let us be sincere to ourselves and stop fooling the international community that all is well in Cameroon until the government humbles itself and calls for a sincere dialogue. Then we are only wasting time. Also provide solutions, please. Good evening, Mr. Liu. There is another side of the national anthem which says that thy worth no tongue can tell. This is Cameroon with a very serious crisis which, when raised to be discussed in the parliament, the Speaker of the House and all the members of the ruling party left the hall. A country where our president once promised us a grand ambition. We didn't ask the direction of the ambition, not knowing it was in this direction, doing all to keep up. In fact, what no tongue can actually tell. Tiku Felix is writing from Boya. Greetings to all in the house. To end the killings, Cameroonians have to stand up against the leaders of the so-called Ambazonia. Those at the diaspora have to start attacking those instructing the killing. This is Lapanata Shamama writing from Cyprus. Good evening to you. Good evening, Mr. Liu and the panelists. The Pandora's box, which has been created in the southwest and northwest regions, can be brought to an end if the international community abandon its lukewarm attitude towards the crisis. Ngole Hene is writing from Limbe. Good evening, gentlemen. Until the crisis is properly addressed, the nightmare may be permanent. I am Prince writing from Limbe. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Let me just rush to bring you my own contribution. My opinion goes as follows. If all the other 8 regions of Cameroon Francophones go down to the streets in protest of these killings, they at least for 7 days non-stop, the government will now see that it's a Cameroon problem and not an Anglophone problem. There is the solution will come as fast as possible. Believe me, let Francophones stop preaching peace with peace plants in the left hand and guns in the right hand. Mbango. Okay, Mbango, you're not telling me where you're writing from. This one says, to stop the killings is only to go to the table, that is all. Alem Oliver writing from Kumba. I think the problem alarming in the Anglophone zones can only be solved by the United Nations, since blacks believe so much in whites. Okay, we have been joined by Angie Akumanga, like I announced in the beginning of the program, representing the Cameroon Renaissance movement. Good evening and welcome.
Yeah, evening and greetings to all. It's a pleasure always being here. Sorry, was blocked up with traffic, but thank God it's better to be late than.
I'm sure your party is also preoccupied by what is happening in the southwest and northwest regions.
Yeah, that's really our preoccupation, and you know, our president have really been in support, like struggling to see that things should come back in normal as far as the crisis is concerned. And one of the reasons why we refused getting in for the municipal elections, because we needed Cameroon to be one and indivisible, like what they have been saying, and not putting it in practice.
Okay, we are looking at what should be done to stop the crisis. My question to you is, how can the government stop the killings? Because we are looking at the killings in the southwest and northwest region. What, according to you, should be government's response to this so that we end the killings?
Yeah, I think talking of the killings in the southern, in the southwest and northwest region, and in reality, it has been more than enough, because one thing for sure, you have a lot of people from that locality of which they are no more based there. Reasons being, like one of the panelists earlier said, whatever you do thinking you're doing the best, you end up discovering that it's an issue with the guys on ground. And today we don't even know who is actually there for the citizens who are actually home presently, and who is not, for knowing very well that today we have this issue of fake ambers and proper ambers, unless we come to discover actually who is really the amber. And with the militaries, we know, we have said it over, that they should drop their arms.
So you believe some of these actions are carried out by fake ambers?
Actually, you know,
like what happened to the girl in Bamenda and Muyuka, you think that could have been the work of fake ambers?
Probably, actually, that girl was treated as a blackleg, because there is an issue of blackleg today in between this, for instance, when they see you get into the military, they have the belief that you're going to give information. And remember equally, during the, the drama we got in Yaoundé in the name of National Dialogue, you had some guys who came and presented themselves like ambers. We just want to know, at the end, what did the military, what did the Cameroon government do with these guys? Where are they, and what are they okay? Are they fine?
Are you saying?
Question.
Yeah, my question is: you think that what happened to Treasure in Bamenda and Comfort in Muyuka could have been the works of fake ambers?
That is only if we can define actually who is a fake amber and the real amber.
No,
now the problem
raising,
now is
you are the one raising this issue of fake amber. Maybe you will help us understand better who a fake, how we can identify.
Remember, there was a case we saw one woman at National Dialogue, that woman was declared killed, that they even killed her and buried her, and she was at the National Dialogue, of which we don't understand someone who was thrown in the hole, shoot, and then dead. And
my question is, with the two cases in Bamenda and in Muyuka, I don't know why you are relating it to that lady, and I don't know how we can authenticate that the lady that was at the major national dialogue is the lady who was buried. I don't know whether it went down
the pictures are actually clear.
I think before, sorry to cut Dr. Nick, because I know it was Dr. Nick that was this is it. The issue, his point is, if that girl was buried alive, she has family members that will probably address the alarm. But when the incident came, no family member, nobody could be chased as linking to that family. So I think I share his own opinion, but we cannot independently confirmed whether that was the situation or not. Because the algorithm where you know if someone was killed or not, because everybody like Chejo, she has the family came up. Like the lady Moyoka, the family came up. All the other issues when you see family, but when you don't see a family coming to identify, so to me, maybe that's his algorithm, and I will not say he's totally wrong.
Mr. Moreta, I think we are here to see how killing in Norwest and South come to an end. And not who's
no, you are just adding to him because the person who is supposed to talk is Dr. Nick.
Yes. What I'm saying is we should. I think the main issue here, the pertinent issue here is how to put an end to what's going on in North and South. And then let me, and then that's why I keep saying that Cameroon politicians.
No, I was still talking before.
So let me see Cameroon politicians come. See politicians in Cameroon come to.
Okay, we are going to come to politics very soon.
Because I think when he is representing CMR, I think when they keep saying that they stop participating in the legislative election with 2019, meanwhile at the peak of Anglophone crisis 2018, but their president stand for presidential election. So there's a lot of controversy over the issue. That's why I don't. When it comes to Anglophone crisis, the most people that are crying most are politicians because there's a lot of game along their lines. They play a lot of game.
They are using the crisis for political.
We might come to that, Mr. Moderator.
Yes, just we are going there.
Yeah, I think we were talking of how giving solutions and proposals.
Yeah, my question to you was what should the government do to stop the killings?
Yeah, I think as of now, the government have started whatever they met. They went to meet the guy who is at their keeping. We're talking of Seseko, in the name of going in for a dialogue, even though we have Ayabacho and this other guy who are like saying he's not the right person, knowing very well that with a gun on his head, it will be difficult to talk on the behalf of these people. I think presently we have said it over and over that as a father, if there is a dispute at home, it is right time the father should come out from the hole wherever he is and then come at least talk to these people. But if you look very well, the speech of the head of state, he have always been declaring war against the amber, of which if you know where these ambers are, it's better to go there. By the time we can define actually what is the problem of the Anglophone, the reason and what they need, I think at the end of the day, we are already at the line to look for a way to stop this killing. But without that, it will be very, very difficult because presently, as we are talking, we have a lot of guys from ground zero who cannot go back home freely because of one or two reasons that you have guys who are now working but money in the name of freedom fighters, etc., and you have militaries equally. So we don't even know who is killing, if they are the ambers or they are the military. So it is right time Cameroon come at one, and then maybe from there we'll now look a better way.
Since he has been very itchy to talk about politics, what should be the posture of political parties as we speak? Be the CPDM, the Social Democratic Front, the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, Cabral Libi, and a host of others. So what should we see them doing at this juncture? Because some persons think that some political parties are using this crisis for political, to make political gains.
Yes, I think it's important for us to understand that aspect of the problem. You see, if you step back a little bit and try to look into the different political parties and see their thought processes, then on the other hand again, you look at the three solutions that are available on the table. What are the three solutions that are available on the table from the different angles? You have the separatists who want it their own way. None of the political parties is for that. Then you have decentralization, which is the fruit of the major national dialogue, which is a CPDM position, and then you have federalism, modified also as confederation, which is very much an SDF position, and we've heard MRC mentioning it, in passing, but seemingly not very convinced about what they are saying, and then they have a hidden agenda there. So you see, these things are not very, very clear. And people don't come out boldly and say this is where we stand. Of course, CPDM comes out and says we want this, there's decentralization on the table and nothing else to talk about. But when you see what was happening in Parliament before the major national dialogue, when these problems have been going on for all this while, 3 years before then, and they were saying, let us discuss this thing in Parliament, they would abandon the Parliament and not talk about the thing that was killing the country. So you could see that people were not very serious about what they wanted to do. They wanted to know the party position or something like that, then they fall behind it. And when the decentralization came, they all fell behind it. And so people don't really stand up to that truth. And for some odd reason, people have been running away from truth. And if you ask me, what should the politicians be looking for? It should be looking for that truth about the Anglophone problems. We need to solve the Anglophone problem, and that Anglophone problem, change Anglophone and call it the West Cameroon problem and the East Cameroon problem. And that problem of the Anglophone, I will say it again, is the fact that the Francophone has got his neck on his knee on the necks of the Anglophones, and that knee ought to be taken off. That is the bottom line.
Severally, we've seen the outing of the Social Democratic Front. We've seen the posture that today is held by the CRM. We see President Cabral Libi, who is touring the East, Adamawa and the northern regions, is talking his political ideology to them. And we always have known that parties would talk about coalition only when it's time for election. Was this not also time for these parties to say we are going for a coalition to solve the Anglophone problem? That is, let us put our party ideologies aside and look for a solution to this crisis.
We would have loved to see that happen, but the people think more about themselves than the people who are suffering. So, and sometimes when they make a semblance of trying to be interested, they are more interested in themselves than in the suffering people. That's where the shoe pinches. People, they use it as a kind of an umbrella, or what's the name of the weak horn? To derail the thinking, so to speak. I was looking for that particular word, it didn't come. But in reality, let's take the case of the MRC, for instance. When Professor Kamto Morris was in Canada, that was the place where he had to actually make a declaration as to whether he was for federation or not, and what kind of federation it was that the party was going in for. But you see, he turned around in circles and never answered. And by the time he went down to the US, he realized that the anger had increased, and therefore he made certain declarations unconvincing declarations about federalism. So in reality, if he actually came to power, what you would notice is that he will either give us a 10-state federation, which is no federation, or he will try to take the Northwest and fuse it to the Western region, and take the Southwest and fuse to the littoral. So he's playing tricks. He's trying to please the Anglophones and please the French. Is this pleasing thing, and he is not convinced about what he is doing. Sometimes one thinks that if he didn't go for elections, he was barely just using the Anglophone thing as an excuse. Again, when it comes to the CPDM, it's very clear that except when the president will say we think federation can do the trick, then you will see all of them clapping for the president and say, yeah, we think that's what can do the trick. But for now, everybody in the CPDM, everybody watches his Gary, and you wouldn't want to tilt the boat for any reason or the other. And the SDF has been bold about it, and it's just they might not have a lot of people representing them in parliament or whatever, but I think amongst all political parties they have been clearer than anyone else, and I don't really know what Cabral is saying.
Okay, yes.
Mr. Morito, I think over the issue of politicians and related to Anglophone crisis, I think you have said it all. For politicians to properly put an end to Anglophone crisis, so killing in North and South, there's a need for coalition. One of the highest hindrance to Anglophone crisis is because of differences among politicians based on their political ideologies. whenever a politician is coming in, when it comes to Anglophone crisis, for example, as Doctor is saying, CBN, the stand is effective decentralization. Nobody, when you want to stand against effective decentralization, it becomes a problem. SDF is federation. So I think there's the need for them to put away all their ideology behind and form a coalition. If we want to listen to politicians put an end to killing in North and Southwest, they must come as one, under one umbrella. I don't know whether they will put under a CBDM, under say what, they must come as one. When once they are coming differently, it is for their own interest. And that's why I earlier said to my panelists on the platform, a CMR representative, that it is very funny and contradicting to the Cameroonians, those of North and Southwest, when in 2018, at the peak of Anglophone crisis, where people were dying in North and Southwest, Maurice came to participate in 2018 presidential election. And then 2019, when there was he said no, he was not there, that because he won that they support. It is so contradicting, and then making most Cameroonians know that politicians are not serious unless they form a coalition. It is very clear. We cannot keep playing over the lives of common people who are dying in North and South every day. So my stand is that when it has related to politicians, they must come under all one umbrellas. If politicians keep coming under different political parties, they are playing games. It is for their own interest. And that's why I keep saying that when one you stand or you clash with their interests, they push you aside. CBN is effective decentralization based on January 1986 Constitution.
1996.
1990, sorry, Mr. Moderator. SDF is federation. As for Maurice County CMR, as Doctor said, they are still playing game. But we are not interested in that. Those who are dying in North and Southwest, they are human beings. And I keep saying something. If you are in a position to put an end to Anglophone crisis, and you don't want to do it because maybe of self-centeredness or greed, or maybe because your family is somewhere where nothing can happen to them or nothing can touch them, there's no problem. You can be above man, but you cannot be above God or laws of Kamer. So it is very clear. Politicians in Cameroon, under one umbrella, coalition, as the moderator said, to put an end to this crisis. If people are able to form a coalition when it comes to election, there's a need for people to form coalition when it comes to put an end to Anglophone crisis. We don't have one people who are coming in the name of putting an end to crisis for their own interests. No, it's for the interest of people of North and Southwest, for killing to put an end to North, for killing to end. I think, Mr. Moderator, I've been so emotional on this platform because I live it. I'm from what we commonly known as Ground Zero, and people are suffering. There are many people that they cannot survive on their own. And meanwhile, yesterday
the situation is very there. Yes.
I think you just raised an issue which I've been talking about it a while ago. When we look at the political landscape of Cameroon vis-a-vis the Anglophone crisis, it's more of a mockery from a political perspective, where the way politicians handle it. Today, you will see Party A will lambast the military. And you see Party B will lambast the non-state armed group, Party C will lambast the military and the non-state armed group, and for their political interest. And I asked a politician this: does it mean that if your party is at the head or leading Cameroon, will you insult the same military the way you are insulting now, or will you allow people to insult the same military you are insulting now? I said, no, you see, we just have to, we have to throw more weight on the government to see that they can resolve this crisis. And I asked a simple question. My question was simple. If your party is the head ruling Cameroon now, the military will not be for you as a leader. The military will be for the people of Cameroon. So your fight should be that the military should be for the people of Cameroon, not that the military is just, you're just insulting, because insult doesn't give a solution. Like I defined the black leg from this perspective of the amber, there is a black leg from the perspective of the military, fueled by the politicians. Because today you see politician A who sit in Yaoundé and call some names in Fako and say, hey, this particular Mola is supporting Amber, the military go and pick. This particular person is supporting Amber, the military go and pick. These are military black leg. One, people who by virtue of the fact that they have extended families who had Amber fighters, by default they are Amber people. Sometimes they are being arrested and detained. Another definition: people who by ignorant they go to the market to sell or have contact of friends they don't even know whether they are state armed groups or not. They are non-state armed groups. By default they are Amber sympathizers. They are arrested. People who by default they live in a community and then they see that okay, because of the Friday, they don't want to open their shop on a certain day or Monday or so. You say they are respecting Amber laws, then they are military black leg. So you have this kind of black legism. The black legism is long, and if a military sees your wife or your girlfriend too that he or she likes, you automatically become an Amber black leg in that community. We have seen situations where homes have been burned down, not just because those homes have active fighters, but because they have relatives that are fighting for the war. We are in Cameroon. Cameroon is a democratic nation. you support Mr. A may support SDF. I have the right to support CPDM. The fact that my brother or an extended family is an Amber fighter doesn't mean that I support the Amber ideology. Doesn't mean that I partake in it. We are in a familiar community, and this is where our politicians. I'll give you an example, especially Fako. We have lots of people that have been killed in Fako, in Moya, in Ekona, in my 16, especially in Bova, Wonakanda, caused by politicians, because they just point Mr. A is an Amber. The military just go, bam, raise their hands, get this person. So these politicians are not looking for the interest, and this is how they need to come, not just a coalition. My issue should be on the education they give to those who are fighting. Okay. Because if they give an education of unity, strength, land of promise, land of honor, this military and the state actors will be professional. Remember, regardless of their ideology, they preach one thing. Both of them have land of glory. Land of glory is common in both of their singings. Okay. So if they want this glory, we must start with politicians preaching respect of human rights, without pointing fingers to people, but telling them that, hey, do this by respecting human rights convention, because they will never come on politician. They will never come to a coalition. The train of coalition left the station.
After President Biya's Paris confession in the Peace Summit in 2019, if the Anglophone elites were interested in defending the common interest of the Anglophone, they would have indicted the Yaoundé regime for many crimes against the Anglophones populace for 60 years. Daniel is writing from Yaoundé. This one says, stop the killing. The military should withdraw back to the barracks. Government ceasefire. Okay. I don't know who's writing this. Please. Okay. Greetings once more. This is Lapana Tasha Mama. When I'm calling on Cameroonians to stand up, I am talking about trustworthy Cameroonians, religious leaders of political parties, and other individuals like Dr. Nick to stand up as one neutral body. Thanks. Okay. Dr. Nick got you 5 on 5. Hello, Mr. Liu. Yes, and panelists, there is a lot of international hypocrisy and conspiracy concerning this crisis. We will talk about how to stop the killings, but an adequate solution is needed, which must address the international mafia that was cooked up by UN and Britain in particular. There is that urgent need to address the root cause. Okay, Pius is writing from Douala. Good evening to you, Pius. Good evening, Mr. Liu. The truth is bitter, but it must be spoken. Mr. Nick knows the truth. Okay, Alem is writing from K-Town. Hello, Mr. Liu and panelists. The solution to the Anglophone war is honest dialogue and not smoke screen or whitewash measures the government has been pretending to implement. Please, when you write, give us your name and where you're writing from. Hi to everyone in the studio. I like the analysis of Dr. Nick. MRC president should not think Cameroonians are fool. He took part in the presidential elections. Okay. Innocent Barizol writing from Bonaberi in Douala. This one says, greetings, Mr. Liu. The killings in the southwest and northwest can come to an end if Cameroon and its officials are honest, truthful, and above all, fear the God Almighty. Mr. Gasha Nestor is writing from Yaoundé. This one says, to end the killings in the northwest and southwest, let the president call off the war, he declared, and come to the table. Bajaj is writing from Bahrain. Good evening to you, Bajaj. Greetings to you in the studio. The problems of Cameroon remains Cameroonian people themselves, not with the argument of force, but with the force of argument. The misery in Cameroon is horrible to behold. The government of Cameroon should adopt the same methods that was used to combat the Boko Haram insurgent in the far north region to the north and southwest regions of the country. I believe the separatists who have decided not to understand that their activities is a misguided adventure are those who were waiting for such opportunities to utilize, and so they are problems of Cameroon at this point in time. Enough is enough. Let the local population be encouraged to return to their homes, and let every household be under the surveillance of the military. And believe me, the separatist activities will be completely eradicated. Please stop calling. I cannot take a call. Okay. You did not tell us who is writing and where you're writing from. Good evening to you all in the studio. For how long shall we keep asking ourselves the same question? How do we end the killings in the southwest and northwest region? It's simple. Call for proper, genuine dialogue. Enuge is writing from Kumba. This one says, Mr. Leo, in fact, you are God chosen to get the minds of Cameroonians, and so whether through you this corrupt government can change. Okay, we hope so. Good greetings to all Mr. Leo. People talking about peace without justice. Peace will not come when injustice prevails. Cyprian is writing from Boya, but I think that we are going to talk about justice because almost everybody is talking about justice without knowing that the justice will be for all. Now, you've heard what we have talked about on what you guys should be doing as politicians. Your party now, the national president, I'm sure his last release ended with a call for people to register massively for presidential elections. But I raised the issue of a coalition. Why is the CRM not also concerned that they should lobby all political parties so that they will have a greater strength to pressure for an end to the killings?
Yeah, I think talking of coalition in this country presently, it will be actually difficult. We all know that. Reason being, you have some political parties presently that are branched to CPDM. And it becomes so difficult for such much-room parties to accept going in for coalition for no reason, knowing very well how they do in order to be there. I don't think we need to be pointing fingers, but we all know it. But then some of these few parties, of which in reality we have been counting on these parties, like for instance SDF at the end, of which presently you and I, we know the national president of SDF is actually on exile. The name of he's not feeling fine. We know he have been by the time he was in, these guys were at every given moment picking him to go keep. When we talk of the position of politicians as far as this Anglophone crisis is concerned, one thing for sure, I just think it is of no importance presently to now start looking and stressing our hands where there is no problem actually. The problem of Anglophone crisis presently had to do with the government in place and the head of state who have been declaring war instead of seeking for peace. And equally, you look at what is happening presently in Southwest, whereby the mayor, who is whereby the predecessor, he came in and not even looking how the predecessor left. He is forcing people to come open and, forcing them to sign a document that they must open, even though they have to pay a sum of 25,000. Is it for instance, if I'm renting your house and paying my bills, where is what we call human right? You have
Are you
no
talking
right.
about what politicians are supposed to be doing now to stop the killings? Or you are talking about
when we talk of politicians, I'm struggling to make us understand that we
You're
should
not
not allow where the problem
No, tell me what the
is.
CRM. Tell me what the CRM should do.
Presently,
they have nothing to do.
Yeah, presently the ideology of CRM we are preaching, and we know Cameroon is actually one and indivisible. When I say we never went in for elections, reason being, we did not see the reasons why we should go in knowing very well that part of the country will not be going in for elections. But now, somebody talked of 2000 at the peak of the crisis, of which we went in for presidential elections. At this particular point, most of you get on most of the platform plateaus, you hear us talking of 2018, etc. We should not confuse in between municipal elections that had to do with the local, of our locality, the local areas, and we talk of presidential election. And for you to have a voice and say something loud, you need to go in, and why not become the president of this nation? And I'm just struggling to define the two elections. He went in at that particular point, at that moment. If you look at the crisis at that particular time, it was not same as that of the municipal elections.
I'm sure 2018 was hotter, except
when we talk of hotter excuse, something at the beginning, it is very difficult to control. Reason being, at the beginning you don't really know actually, because this issue started with lawyers, moved to teachers, etc., before now becoming this issue of amber, the names that we are getting.
I'm sure, except Mr. Akumanga.
Yeah.
I am a journalist. I'll tell you that I covered the 2018 elections, and I observed what happened during the municipal and parliamentary elections. I tell you, 2018, you could not dare go out. Yes. I don't know what we're on the same page here.
We are on the same page, but you're not getting me well. I said at the peak of this crisis, it was difficult to define actually what was the problem of the Anglophones. Reason being, I said they started by lawyers who went on street and they flogged them. You get it? Of which those lawyers was not actually for Anglophone problems. Okay. Let us make things clear. Later on, we got teachers who also went in and they were caught and locked.
The lawyers were not for the Anglophone problem?
They were not. They had the issue of common law. They were not for Anglophone problem. It was an issue of common law.
What is the Anglophone problem?
No, the Anglophone problem today, they are like asking that the cake, the national cake, should be shared. For instance, why is it that the president of the nation must be a francophone? And many others.
Dr. Nick, I don't know.
I mean, just argue this one out amongst yourself and leave me out. I'm going to discuss peace. I want enough time to discuss peace, justice.
Maybe let me just come in. He was talking about 2018 that he doesn't know. At that point, they didn't know where the Anglophones were. But let me remind them that this crisis the real problem. This crisis started in 2016. 2017 is enough time for a serious political party to understand the need of Anglophones. When Barra and Co were arrested in 2017, when they handed powers to Mark Barata and Co, CRM should have known the exact issue. Moving from this, how they changed, this how it moved from Bala to Tapa Ivo and to where we are, and you are party saying that by 2018, when we were one of armed conflicts, that at that point in time you were still dancing, let's get serious.
No, that's why Mr. Lodawa earlier said that if politicians are coming to the I have been on many political debates with CMR representatives. They have not clearly defined. That's why I keep saying that politicians are pretending when it comes to the Anglophone crisis, they are not serious. I've been with many on debate with many CMR politicians, representatives. They keep saying that no, here just put the argument and say that 2018 was presidential election, 2019 they are not informing them. Why is it that they are so Mr. Lawyer, a journalist, we want to cover Anglophone crisis from 2016, 2017, 2018. What was 2018? You could not dare go to the region because they will see that you are going in for campaign. But unfortunately, the candidate, Maurice come to the flag bearer, he stood for presidential election 2018. And then when he lost the 2018 presidential election, 2019, now he came and said, no, he's not going in because of Anglophone crisis. That's why I keep saying that people of Northwest, they are confused with politicians. Because politicians are not clear. They don't want politicians, because they don't clearly understand. Anglophones want somebody who put an end to the crisis. Politicians will tell you good morning today, and then they tell you that they are confusing the population. So
but we've.
You are more confused.
I want us to be clear on something. We have been following the CRM. Recently, we have been following Cabral Libi. Recently, we have followed, I'm sure, Nijon Frundi made an outing on Mimimefo and
SCBC.
No, Mimimefo, yes, SCBC, and recently on Afrique Media. I'm sure his position, even when the ambassy took him, has not changed. Seemingly, I'm shocked.
No, the position has not changed. I think I really respect him a lot, and I admire him, I admire his courage, and I have learned a lot from him. And sometimes for personal reasons, some people try to ridicule him and make fun out of him. That's not the right thing to do of someone like that, and he needs to be respected.
Did you follow his outing recently?
Yeah, I followed the outing. I want to say this, that as he was in those days, as it's now, and so shall it be with Fundi. Yeah, his position is clear. And he is equally clear as far as right abuses are concerned at the level of the non-state armed groups. He tells them to their face.
Yes.
And he's not someone that mixes his word. I think he's not much of a politician when it comes to Anglophone crisis. When it comes to Anglophone crisis, he's more of an Anglophone and who wants an end to the solution. But when it comes to politics, he plays politics differently. Sad when we see other politicians who are more of Anglophone, but they're being more of politicians than Anglophones, and they have problems faced within their community. So to me, all politicians, Anglophone politicians, need to keep aside their political differences and be honest to themselves. Fungi has been honest from day one. People laugh at him. People look at the people who laughed at him from the beginning. Where are they now? It was like a Mark Barata and Co were laughing. He's doing this, he's doing that. Today they cannot speak. Nobody. So it's difficult to see someone who has built a reputation from 1987 till now. Someone whose action brought in the launch of multi-party politics.
I think, Mr. Morito, I think just like Javi is saying, I think we follow also Fungi's stand is clear, and he's keep on condemning human rights, especially on the part of the separatists, generally condemning human rights violation. But I think, Mr. Morito, we were not only diverting to based on politicians. I think Doctor have also made a mention related to the government responsibility.
I asked that question already. What government should be doing?
I want to just highlight something on the part of the government. We, especially Anglophones of Northern South, they are like Oliver Twist, keep asking for more.
Yes, they're asking for more. Now, coming to that, I want you to come in. I want you to come in from the perspective of the elites from the Northwest and Southwest region. You are an elite, and severally we have seen commissions crop up and just die away. What should the elites themselves be doing to help solve this crisis? Because we have, on the one hand, the separatist fighters, we have the government, but there are people who call themselves elites from these two regions. Are they so powerless? Why are they elites if they have nothing to do or to say? They have no power to wield over the people.
The concept of elite is a great thing, but it's been misused, and it's very unfortunate that, if you have to be a genuine elite, you must be guided by truth, you must be guided by love. But if you are an elite by virtue of an appointment, you are an elite by virtue of the fact that you work for the government, or you are an elite by virtue of the fact that you have a lot of money, but you are not guided by truth and love, then when it comes to tough issues, you will not be able to take a reasonable stand, because at those moments your stomach tends to dictate more than your head.
Well, I think, let me just ask that.
No. You cannot be talking for Doc to me. Now, what should the international instruments do today to stop the killings? You think they should put more pressure, or people should not count on them?
Like Jarvis was trying to explain, when you go to school, you go from class 1 to 2 to 3. When you have a problem, when you have a problem that can be solved in class 2, you solve it there. But when a problem cannot be solved at the level at which it was created, you take it to the next class. And so things have been going from class 1 to class 2 to class 3. And Jarvis was saying that by the time it reaches class 6, something drastic is going to happen. And so the international community goes through this process. You would also remember that when America had to go to was it Iraq?
March 20th.
Yes, they were the kind of like were following a certain procedure, but at one time when the international community was slow to react, they just went on their own and said, okay, we're going to do it. So if that process is not just for Cameroon, it's kind of like it's standard operating procedure for the whole world. It's like when you go to the Catholic Church and there's a procedure for prayers. You don't just keep and give Holy Communion. That's exactly the kind of thing we are talking about. So we should continue what we are doing, continue to educate people, and make everyone else realize that when you're hurting another person, is going to come back to you. I think that is what is going to frighten people most. The fact when you realize that you are not going to just get away with it as you thought, especially those guys in the diaspora. When I'm talking, watch me. You are not going to get away with it like that. It's going to come back to you. You can be very certain about it. And when that time reaches, don't cry.
Okay. Yes.
Mr. Morita, I wanted to add something to the issue of elite. I think elite of Northwest and Southwest, what their action is based back to what we're talking related to influence of politics. They cannot act beyond their their political lines or their political ideologies. That's an
Are you saying that elite? You are talking about the political elite, eh?
That's what I'm saying. That you know, that's why we came back. We started by talking about politicians, different political parties understand related to Anglophone crisis. That's why I keep saying that elite of not, because I had a program in Boya. When I ended, I had to meet one elite, which I will not mention the name for, but I was surprised with elite discrimination. I went, no, why is that you cannot say? Like, when I asked them about why you can't, they say no, my hands are tight. So I discovered that they act based on, they had the political line, on the political line, that when you go, because this crisis is very sentimental. When you blunder to do something out of the line, you become a target. Or you might,
they say you're a black leg.
Yeah, you might be suspected. Because as that elder says, black leg is not only from separatists, they're also government black legs. So especially when you are of Northwest, your origin of Northwest and Southwest, you should be careful with it. So when you want to go forward, maybe going out of the party line, you might be suspected. So when I asked the doctor that why is that you cannot go on, and he said no, my hands are tight. And he related, the kind of doctor is saying related to the stomach. Cameroon politics is politics of the stomach. You can't do something that at the end of the day you don't have food to put on your table. So that's the problem that we're facing for the area of North and Southwest.
Yes, but the civil society, your appreciation. We have civil society organizations who have been very active on the Cameroonian landscape, especially in the Southwest and Northwest regions, involved in many other activities, but we have heard not much from them during this crisis.
I think, Mr. Morito, everything, I keep saying that everything goes back to, when this crisis like that, government will put a platform, Mr. Morito. There's a need for government to put a platform. It goes back to the government. Everything goes back to the government. It's the government who says that, just like they did during the national dialogue, we need representatives from civil societies. We need religious bodies. We are talking like, what about religious bodies?
No, we are coming to them.
Yeah, what about religious bodies? We can't forget about the death of Reverend Father Sobe Moyoka. Can't forget about the death in Batibo of recent, where a humanitarian who is also a pastor. So what are the government needs to put a platform for different representatives. There's nothing that we can do in Cameroon without the government putting a platform. I think it can be in this crisis has been allowed to for different organizations or whatever to solve the problem without the take note, Mr. Moderator, everything in Cameroon must go back to the government to put in place an organigram for everything to work on successfully. But if the government does not put a platform, even there's a civil society representative, what are they acting without the influence of the government? I think they will go back to the government. What is the government doing? And that's why earlier said that there's a need for government, and some people are writing saying that they need a genuine dialogue. Government have earlier organized a dialogue, and then government must put it clear. We need representatives of civil societies, we need religious bodies, we need separatist representative, we need federalist representative, all of them to be inclusive, be on the table. If government not put a platform, anything you are doing, you are going against the law. You cannot do even peaceful demonstration in Cameroon without seeking authority from the government.
Even marriage,
as we saw excellent, we have heard about marriage. So what I'm saying is that everything goes back to the government, and I keep saying that the people of Northwest and Southwest are like Oliver Twist. They are not refusing the government, are not done a lot. We have applauded the government for creating National Bilingualism Commission. We applaud the government for DDR. We applaud the government for the National Dialogue. We applaud the government for creating a common law school in Inama, other area. But we are Oliver Twist. We keep asking, enough is not enough, because killing is still going on in Northwest and Southwest.
Okay,
so that's why we are.
You think also the time my job is that the civil society in Cameroon or in the Southwest and Northwest region, they are helpless?
They are helpless. Leo, let me wear now the cap of a negotiator. I think from this perspective, the civil society cannot effectively call the shot, because they are just there in response of actions from both parties, as far as the common man is concerned. But those who can call the shot are the images you see behind us, the mothers. But to me, they have become political, and they are using it for their maybe for political gain. I'll give an example, you. In conflict, emotionally charged conflict, who can bring both parties to sanity are the mothers, the elders, the mothers, the elders, those who are old, who can stand at the front of gun and say, shoot us. When I mean shoot us is that both parties, if these mothers, all the mothers in North and Southwest region, decide to ground the streets of North and Southwest region for just 2 days, nobody, the military will not shoot their mothers. There's no state armed groups who will not shoot their mothers. And if they do that, that is a green card to an immediate end to this conflict. Because when you see they keep folding an arm, go and cry, the governor's office, go and cry this, go and say, no, we condemn this killing. Let me ask you, when I went to Moyuka, I asked that the mother whose daughter was beheaded, that today is Friday, how many persons have contacted you to personally give you condolence? None. But on Facebook, it was everywhere. We condemn it. We send our sympathy to the families.
Maybe they don't know. Maybe they don't know them.
Yo, how do you know them?
How will you contact them?
Yo, there are legends in there. There are channels that you can easily get them. How did I contact them? That's not an excuse. If you want to get them, you get them. The same thing we keep condemning on social media, condemning to use for political gains. The mothers can go down to the field, say that okay, enough is enough. The tax forces, enough is enough. Our children who are military are dying. Our children who are non-state angles are dying. Our children, our colleagues are dying in the bushes. Let us ground the street for 2 days. 2 days, the story will be different. But when you see them say, no, let's go and cry this, let's go and cry here, let's go and cry here. It's politics. And at the end of the day, some from the tax force, organizations start moving out of the country, getting visa and the rest. To me, if they are actually for the interest of Anglophones, my mother in the village will come out and stand on the road. If the mother say, let us stand and say enough is enough for this conflict, the government will ban. The non-state armed groups will ban. But at this level, they cannot ban. The civil society cannot go on the street because they will be tagged to have received money from abroad to destabilize Cameroon. But who will tag the mothers from Gokitunja? Who will tag the mothers from Akwaya? Who will tag the mother from Moyoka? Who will tag the mother from Moya? The Bamba who will move to the city Moya. Where has she collected money? That you who is an armed fighter will not shoot your mother. Even if you shoot, how many can you kill? Even if you are military, how many can you kill? Let's be clear. That's just a green card. X, there's no green card. And with that action, international community will understand that, hey, it has moved to this next level. And that is a catalyst of change. What will define as a catalyst, something that takes part in a reaction, but end on not being used in that reaction. And this level, the mothers are the catalyst. Which, of course, they will turn the litmus test from blue to from normal to red. They're highly acidic.
Okay, Hans. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you were talking of the civil society.
Civil society, yes.
What they need to do in order to put
to stop the killings.
Yeah, talking of civil society, even the Amber guys are already civil societies.
That was my question to you. My original question to you is what should be the posture of the Amber fighters and their leaders to stop the killings?
Okay. Because when I remind us of Amber, who are civil societies, they are individuals who just get up and say, no, it is more than enough, and they went on straight. And some years behind, it was actually our mothers in the name of Tekembeng. They went, removed their dresses in those days of SDF, and it never worked. And equally, some days behind, you can remember CRM, who went on street and were locked up for 9 months. So with the government in place, if you are against the system, you need to be silenced and removed out of the system. And for that reason, it becomes so difficult with a common man who is like struggling to earn his common living to go on street and fight again today. And coming back, please, you talked of the elites and their position. I don't know if I should comment on that. First of all, you know, most of our elites are political elites. And it becomes so difficult for you to send a political elite to go and, you know, cut a branch of which that branch is where he's fetching his food. You have a lot of ministers who are not ready for this crisis to get to an end because they are making a lot of money. You know, there is a say that a lot of giants were born within the period of war, meaning you have a lot of ministers who will get rich today because of the Anglophone crisis, and others are really like even financing others to be against others. Somebody talked of black legs, ministers, or an individual because of his position, just show somebody go kill. You know, a lot of guys have been using these Amber guys now to settle scores. And it becomes so difficult in order to like talk of civil society going in. And please, if you, a young guy today, you want your mother have done a lot to bring you on earth, and today you still need that common mother to go stand in front of a bullet that shoot, of which you go keep yourself hide and you think that the mom should go. I think one thing for sure, I think it is right time the Francophones should stop playing the blame game because they keep on blaming the Anglophones and they are not in support with us. What did I mean? They have never locked like a national lockdown for a day, like what we saw within the COVID-19, the lockdown within that particular period.
Are you talking as an Anglophone or a CRM militant? Because the majority of CRM militants are Francophones.
No, we are talking of a general case now, and let's allow the political background aside. I'm equally talking as an Anglophone now, because one thing for sure, if we keep on pointing the act of CRM, we should not forget that SDF refused getting in for that election and Daimini the winning. So if we really want to get to that, it will be very, very difficult to bring it out. What I'm like talking as an Anglophone here is this. The Francophones are not our brothers. They are not with us. In other words, I can say they are against us. Why am I using this word? You cannot claim to say we are brothers and you feel what I'm really going through, and you cannot come and, you know, dine with me and then you go on street, say no, enough is enough. We have Francophones there in the English zone area. Most of these Francophones, their children were going to school in our zones, the English areas, because we have very good education system, etc. But today, you bear with me that they have allowed us to fight our fight, and maybe the end winner will be them. And when we now talk of victory, they will come. So for me, I think it is right time that the government should go in and work.
Yeah, victory. I don't know. Victory as Anglophones or as CRM or as, I don't know.
No, when I talk of victory, because there's still that belief. I'm not talking of because we will talk of that of CRM. It is already there somewhere around the corner. It will come.
Okay, the victory of CRM is around the corner.
That's why we are calling Cameroonians to go in massively and register themselves for the election.
Okay, before he comes in, Leonard, Dr. Nick is as forthright, pointedly blunt and articulate as often. The activist teacher is good, but ought to have his facts checked, upgraded. The young who is not as gentle in speech as his name sounds has been going yo-yo, so to speak. He started off by advocating that blame games be put under, but helas, he's been blaming all the way. Dr. Ngwanyam shall certainly be recorded by posterity for offering wonderful solutions to this ugly war. But are those killing by proxy listening? The answer is blowing in the wind. Charlie, Uncle Charlie Ndicha is the one writing. Good evening. Glad to know you're following the program, Uncle Charlie. Greetings, Mr. Liu and the crew on board. Samba from Tombel. Anglophone crisis is no longer an Anglophone crisis, but an Anglophone trouble. Look at the dual scenario in Bamenda and Muyuka, respectively, with such massacre by our own citizens who seek to protect us, puts us on fear, and no is longer safe in this part. Okay, no one is safe in this part of the English-speaking regions. Good evening to you. This one says, I'm happy for your program. Good evening to you. Thank you very much. It's not tell us who is writing. Good evening to you, oh, my brothers, and thanks for your program. Really, our country is lost. It's a pity we, the so-called 2 cubes of sugars, have refused to dissolve. Okay, please tell us where you are writing and who is writing. Hello, dans le SDF qui disait qu'aller aux élections dans ces conditions, c'est acté à la partition du pays est plus crédible que le MRC. Simo is writing from Italy. Good evening to you, Simo. Ngupo says, Mr. Leo, please permit me come in again. The CRM representative should be not be mixing his work. It started well. I thought he wanted to tell us that they went in for presidential elections because the rest, the other regions could vote the president, but at the level of local elections they could not, because those of the 2 Anglophone regions could not have the opportunity to elect their local representatives. Okay, Paul, good evening to you, writing from Kumba. Please, can I have a doctor's number? Is Innocent Barizol from Bonaberi. Okay, you say you are a lecturer and business consultant. Good evening to you. just indicate, you say you want doctor's number, indicate to me after the program. Good evening, Mr. Liu and co. I think we should stop calling on the United Nations to come to our aid, because they too are divided in their ideas, just like the government and the separatists. This is because the American government is with the separatists and France with the government. Hence, the government should use their wisdom to end the crisis. They know exactly what to do. Lobson is writing from Yaoundé. Good evening to you, Mr. Kum. I think the correct way to cope this crisis is to give way to a third party, because the government and the Amber won't stop from pointing fingers at each other. Juvet is writing from Moliko. Mr. Leo, good evening to you and you people on the panel. I enjoy your program, but one thing I want to ask these politicians in the Northwest and Southwest is that did they listen to the discussions President Biya had with Mo Ibrahim in France? Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu and panelists. The war can end when the government officials start telling the truth about the crisis, and government should stop playing international diplomacy of diverting attention. Rini is writing from Bonaberry. Let's look at what the church should do at this juncture, Dr. Nick. What should the church do?
Well, I will rephrase what the church can do and then come back to discuss a subject that is very dear to me.
Okay.
When I'm done with the subject, then you will see how the church fits in.
Mm-hmm.
I want us to discuss the concept of truth, the concept of justice, and the concept of peace.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these three words and concepts are interrelated, and we must know how that happens. Otherwise, we get mixed up.
Okay.
You know, we say, for instance, that there can be no peace without justice. There can be no peace without justice. What exactly do we mean? And when we say peace, what does it mean? I myself, I used to just take those words for granted until I went to Google on internet and say peace, and then, you know, things came out. They were very erratic, and it was not exactly right. And it's through listening and meditating that it became very clear to me what peace is. For starters, peace is like money. Peace does not like noise. It doesn't like noise at all. It's very sensitive to noise. And to understand peace, we have to understand truth. So the question is, what is truth? And I also did not understand what truth is and should be until I listened to the cardinal when he was giving, was it, what do you call, I think, was it a graduation or something like that at the Catholic University in Bamenda, and he gave a lecture on truth. That's when I got the different aspects to truth. And this is it. So we have concepts like oncogenic truth, half-truths, then some words that we use like facts. But this is it. To every situation, there's only one truth. There are no two truths to every situation. There's only one truth. And it is that one truth that many people twist around for their own gains. So it doesn't matter what the situation is. If we looked for that truth, it will set us free. That's what the Bible says. It says the truth shall set you free. And until you learn to look for that truth, you will never get free. So it doesn't matter what the problem is, we must look for that truth, whether you like it or not, because at the end of the day, that's the only thing that will set us free. It's very, very important. And this is how you can tell if something is true or not. You know, I gave the example of bananas. So you and I are hungry, and there's a lady that's selling bananas down the road, and we look at something that looks like bananas, but when we go there, we realize that there are two kinds of bananas: the Chinese banana and the Tico banana. And what do I mean by Chinese banana? The Chinese banana is plastic. From a distance, it has the form of a banana, but when you go there, you realize that it doesn't have the weight. It's very hard. You cannot eat it. So it is a lie. It looked like a banana, but when you got there, it didn't fulfill the functions of a banana. So every truth has got two parts to it, and that's how you use to test what is truth or a lie. A truth has got a form and a function. What do I mean? If you see a water system toilet sitting there, well, it looks like a toilet. But if you go and pee in it or poo in it and it doesn't flush and there's no water to flush it, it's not a toilet. So it looks like a toilet, but it doesn't have the functions of a toilet. Therefore, for something to be true, it must have the form. He's wearing a white jacket and looks like a doctor. And then he must be able to do the job of a doctor, those two things. But you can still wear a jacket and have a stethoscope, but you are fake. So you see, those two things must go together, and that's what we must be looking for. Without those two things going to, we call those congruency. When those two things agree, it's congruency, and you have truth. But what you will notice is that in our country and in what is going on is that there's a lot of half truths, and people always tell the story from their own end to real load you into the wrong direction. And until we get to that point where we really get that truth, we'll never be out of this. And the war and the killing are going on because the major national dialogue was not built on truth and did not respect the principles of truth. That's where the problem is. So everything else that is coming out of it, reconstruction, whatever, they are built on the wrong foundation. And that foundation, the right foundation, was established by His Excellency President Paul Biya with Mr. Mo Ibrahim in France, when he says, look, we have had our knees on the Anglophones' necks, let's let them be. If from that moment on we should be building on the principles of truth, but a lot of people don't want it. Now, but what is justice? Justice is the process. Justice is not one thing. It is a process of establishing truth. Whatever that truth is, it is the process of establishing truth. I'm not talking about justice in our courts. Justice as it ought to be, justice the way Christ wants it, is the process of establishing truth. And once you establish truth, you pay reparation. And once you do that, peace comes. So peace is a bonus that shows up when you have respected truth and justice. But without truth and justice, if you are looking for peace, you will never get it. I hope we all understood that.
Okay. We are going to continue with the program after this interview we had with Senator Bou Soulé, who left a womb. He was in Yaoundé for almost 6 months because of the ongoing crisis. He's back in womb and had this to tell us.
Thank you, Mr. Charlie, that you came to bury your father's successor. I accept my condolences. Womb is my village, my original village, where I was born. Most of my time I'm here. And even though when the crisis came up, it wasn't easy. I must be honest to you that I worked together with the outgoing prefect, Mr. Kamer. In fact, it wasn't easy at all. But I want to actually inform you that there is calm. There is calm. It is not as it was about a few years behind. You see, if you look at the situation of the people of who were mentioned, you will sympathize with them. One, the Baforo was blocked. They hadn't a way to leave home and get to Mamela. There was no access to attending to hospitals, take their health, because in Womb, where the general hospital is, that you will find the doctors there. Friendship, we should sing our differences in the name of God and correct yourself and move forward. It's getting to 4 years. Our children are not this issue. I must be honest to you. I don't know. The people took the thing here seriously. And you know, some of the issues when they happen and people don't see that it has affected this person. But at times when they stand in a place, I'm talking, they say, oh, Mr. Senator, you big people, to be honest to you, that I have witnessed the killings. I have witnessed it has affected me. My son-in-law, here in front of my door, this child was crying. I tried to find out what crime that child committed. I couldn't understand. And that child was shot just few meters away from my house, around 1 a.m. What I want to say, the civilians are dying. And you know my farm, where I have yams, I have plantains, I have palms. So when I produce a lot of oil, to stay without going to that farm is a very, very serious problem to me. You know, when after the elections of the 9, I left home. I stayed 5 months in Yaoundé without coming back. So, but I could not, but I've come back now to come and see what is going on. People have started going back to their farms. I want to appreciate the senior divisional officer, the new senior divisional officer, Mr. Abdullahi Aliu. He has also played a very big role for calm to return in this womb. You find the military people, the civilians, they are all together moving around. As I'm saying, I like using my bicycle because the nature of the road wouldn't permit me to come down with my vehicle here. In fact, it will cost me more if I brought it.
Okay, that was Bou Soule, SDF senator resident in Womb there, also telling us what he's gone through and how the town of Womb looks like today with respect to the ongoing socio-political tensions rocking the conflict-stricken regions of the southwest and northwest region. But I will continue our discussion with you. Gentle, now you see the political elites are failed. What do you make of the commissions created so far with the objective of taming the tensions raging on?
I think I earlier mentioned it clear that we applaud the government of Cameroon for different commissions, and they created it beginning with the National Commission for Bilingualism, many others, even the National Dialogue, even opening a common law school for Anglophones in Nam, even the DDR. We applaud. That's an excellent when somebody does something, because that from that you see that government is showing intention towards good intention toward putting an end to the ongoing crisis in Northwest and Southwest. But I keep saying that we of the Northwest and Southwest, the Anglophones of the Northwest and Southwest, Cameroonians, looking at what is going on in Northwest and Southwest, are like Oliver Twist. Honestly, Mr. Lou, as especially the National Dialogue, especially the National Dialogue, we are like Oliver Twist because killing is still going on. I think the main issue that we are doing, anything that government is doing, is aim at putting an end to crisis in Northwest, aim at putting an end to killing in Northwest and Southwest. But with all this commission that the government have created, and if killing is still going on in Northwest and Southwest, that's why I can say that it means that more need to be done. More need to be done in Northwest and Southwest. And the more, as one of the viewers have earlier mentioned in the message, that there's a need for the government of Cameroon to call for a sincere, honest dialogue. I mean, when I mean sincere, I mean that it will be sincere than the other one. I'm not saying the other one will not sincere. This one will be more sincere than the other one. Doctors, we are Cameroonians. So what I mean by sincere is that, and people know, even those who are sending messages, they know very well that there's a need for such a dialogue. It should be sincere with all the representatives on the table. Separatist representatives. I keep saying that separatists are Cameroonians. Politicians, religious bodies, the church, civil society representative. Mr. Moderator, you have seen the work of, you see what the Northwest, Southwest women task for. They are crying that the Anglophone crisis are now for.
We hear there's going to be a manifestation tomorrow at Bongo Square in Boya.
Yeah, they are crying that it's not centered on women. Women are the vulnerable population that are being targeted by the different arms groups. So I'm just trying to say is that there's a need for a sincere dialogue representing
there's
all.
Need for a sincere dialogue. But would this not also end when those involved in human rights, gross human rights violations, when they start accepting their act, that is taking responsibility for what they do? For example, in other parts of the world, when an act is committed, we see people telling the world that we are responsible for this, but in Cameroon, seemingly nobody takes responsibility over any such act.
L'impossible n'est pas camerounais. I think we should understand that. And secondly, we should note that no child points the father's house with the left hand. And to every child, the mother is the best cook. Nobody wants to say that I take responsibility, looking at the culture of Cameroonians. But that should not be the focus. We should not say that because of this tendency, they should not accept responsibility. They should accept responsibility, which is, if you do an act, you should accept. Like the guy in Muyuka actually confessed that he carried out the act. When we listened to the interview, the interviewer said, I don't like the work your boys did. He said, no, it's not my boys, I'm the person that carried out the act. So you get, and when people start taking responsibility, it helps to mitigate and reduce the tension. But the issue here is, I think one of the reasons why I laughed when he talked about honest and sincere dialogue, like Dr. Nee said, there's a difference between facts and truth. Not all facts are truthful. The fact is that, Mr. Liu, there's somebody who wants decentralization. But the truth is that it's not decentralization that can solve the problem. That's the fact. When people can start saying the fact, this is a fact, this is a fact. Facts are alternative, are obsolete, and sometimes facts are what we call subversive. They are not truth. Truth is what will lead to a meaningful to justice. But fact is what will lead to a position, and that position may be truthful and may not. This is what, when I hear you talking about the women task force moving tomorrow, to me,
it's not a women task force, eh? The women task force are supposed to be a part of.
Good. Leo, what I expect from these people, what I expect from the mothers, is that they should not just end at the level of Bongo Square. It should be a radical move, because when you have people who are, let me ask you, Leo, how does that affect someone in the bush with a gun? When you go and Bongo Square, sometimes they don't even listen. Those guys don't even listen. But what they will listen is when it's spontaneous. When it's not only Bongo Square, when you have people, women in Moya, you have women in Bamenda, you have women everywhere. Women inundate the street, with peace plans, chanting that enough is enough. And the religious leaders join the movement and say, okay, we stand in front of the women and say, oh, enough is enough. Our children are dying. Both the military and this are dying. It is time to leaders is so-called sincere, because there will never be sincere dialogue in Cameroon with this regime, with the BR-led government. That's the truth. But how can we get them to sincerity? Is when the mothers take the front row. Yes. He said, I should not expect the mothers who my mother will give birth to me to come and stand and defend. No, my mother remained my mother, and she remained my mother in defending me. Because whether we like it or not, if I die, my mother will cry. But it is the custom. This is what the Bible says.
We've seen mothers in West Africa stop evolving.
Yes, we have seen it. Yeah. This is what happened in South Africa. Women took the street, and Judge Montutu and the rest took the street. We've seen mothers stopping war. Let me explain you this. My mother was never gave birth to me for me to die before her. That's the truth. That's why you will never hear, of an orphan, but you will never hear of a woman who, in demonstration. That is a red line. The international community doesn't need conventions. At that level, they don't need conventions. Our mothers need to be educated on this.
Okay. They need to be educated on this. Good evening, Mr. Liu. It's about 1 week. My media prime is not showing on my television. I would just advise you to change your frequency. Many persons write to me every day. The frequency moved to 12,333. Our new frequency is 12,333. Symbol rate is 30,000. Our symbol rate now is 30,000. Polarity is vertical. So just, if you cannot do it, get a technician. It's going to help you. That I should move our frequency to 12,333. Now we are looking for a definite end to this. I'm sure this is going to be allowed. The last talk for the evening. What should be a definite way out of the killings?
Yeah, I think you talked of the commissions that were created regarding this crisis. I don't think we just go on creating commissions without doing findings to really know what is happening on ground before we create commissions. Meaning, at the end of the day, you create commissions of no importance. And I heard one of our speakers talking of appreciating the head of state for creating commission. The problem is not creating commission and putting people there to eat the state budget for no importance. but creating commissions that will really need and to do some changes, and that will bring changes. Hadn't be this commission was of good help for us, in reality we wouldn't have been talking of the crisis today like it was from the genesis. So I think as of this moment, the way forward in reality is to make Cameroonians to know the truth. And actually, you will never hide your identity. If you hide identity, I don't think you will take that of another person to move with freely. So the southern Cameroonians actually are struggling to know their identity, but then the stakeholders are not ready for these people to know actually their right identity, and that is where the problem lies. And presently today, as they are struggling to go in for re-dialogue, meaning the previous one actually was not actually a dialogue, it was a drama, because we saw guys, and one thing for sure, they are asking the guys who are fighting on ground to drop their arms, and now they will take them into services and give them employment. But one thing for sure, we all discover a case whereby an individual get up and say it was within the installation of one senior division officer. He said he have dropped down his arms. He was an amber, and the next day they met him dead. So one thing for sure is they should assure the people, like what I said last time when the mayor was actually asking people to open their shops on Monday. You need to also assure them that these people are creditors to bank. You don't know where they took their capital, they got their capital. If they burn their shops, you need to assure them that as you are forcing them to do these things, tomorrow you will like also.
But are you also saying, are you also telling the people who are asking them not to open that, keeping them closed, they still need to raise money to pay the bank loans?
The problem here is those people, we are talking of ghosts. Who are the people asking them to stop activities?
Are you saying,
that is where the problem lies.
Are you saying you don't know who is asking them to
For real, I don't know who is asking. Maybe you can enlighten us better.
But you are designing fake ambers.
You said they are fake ambers. They are not. Yes, the way out.
Yes, the way out of this crisis, what we should be doing. We need to work on principles. If you don't work on principles, nothing works.
Okay.
You must work on principles, and principles in themselves are truths. Now, for starters, my brother gently said the government had done a lot of things. You know, if you are counting, okay, looks like it, but to understand the weight of the things, you need to understand the concept of Parota's rule, the 80-20 rule. The government has to do only one thing, just one, not 20, not 30, not 100. Do one thing that will solve 80% of the Anglophone problem. That's the point. And what is that one thing that ought to be done? What is that one thing that the major national dialogue had to address to be able to solve the problems? What is that one thing that is missing, which is responsible for the violence that is still continuing? It is the form of state. That form of state, if we deal with the form of state and solve the problem of the form of state, many things would happen. And what is the form of state that I'm recommending to solve this problem? The next dialogue that is coming, which will be a truthful dialogue this time, would have to deal with confederation. Confederation where we define West Cameroon and East Cameroon. Then after that we cause decentralization within these confederal states. It's very important. Then we build a capital at Ebebda on the river Sanaga, somewhere in Bafia, there, a place called Ebebda. Build a capital there for East Cameroon, so that Yaoundé is a capital for West Cameroon and East Cameroon. Then Ebebda is the capital for East Cameroon. Once you do that decentralization, the people in Marawa can function independently of the people from the south. It's very important to do that. Okay. Then the next thing that we need to do is to define the code of arms. What is the responsibility of Anglophones in the army? What is the responsibility of Francophones in the army? Why can the two languages not be used in the army? We need to do these things. Then he was praising the thing of bilingualism. I'm telling you, bilingualism is just draining money for nothing. And we can do a check. They are not useful. Bilingualism is not useful. Senate is not useful. What's the other thing? Economic and Social Council is not useful. And then we need to restructure ENAM. We need to do these things. Thank you.
Okay. Way out.
Yes, Mr. Moreto, I think I will come back to issue way out. We'll talk about a sincere dialogue. I keep saying that I have my stand. I don't
real
know this,
sincere dialogue.
a sincere dialogue whereby the form of state will be discussed. Just like Doctor is talking about confederation, I'm a federalist, and a form of state will be discussed based on, for me, I based on two-state federation, former West Cameroon and former East Cameroon, to follow a colonial heritage. We are not the one who partitioned Cameroon in February 1916. It was the colonial master Britain who partitioned Cameroon in February 1916. So I stand that a sincere dialogue, form of the state, federation, most advanced country in the world practice federation. Federation is not a crime. Federation will not divide Cameroon. A two-state federation whereby former West Cameroon will maintain and former East Cameroon will maintain will go ahead. Mr. Lowe, I think one of the number one political reasons why I just decided to change Cameroon from federal to unitary in 1972. One of the number one political reasons that influenced Aejo to change Cameroon from federal to unitary in 1972 was to prevent West Cameroon from breaking away or secessing. He now changed Cameroon federal to unitary. If Cameroon is today under unitary or under one Cameroon, and people of North and South are still advocating for secession, it means that there's the need, because I've had political program where somebody start on platform and say we cannot go back to two-state federation, we cannot eat something and vomit it back. It does not make sense. We can go back to that two-state federation and look at the weaknesses of the two-state federation and address it. I think it's very clear. Aejo advocated by saying that in the 1960s, Aejo discovered that most federated country in the world, like Congo, who were practicing federation, a state in Congo, not Katanga, wanted to break away under a man called Moise Chombe. Yeah. That fighting Aejo. Again, in 1967 in Nigeria, the Nigerian Eastern region, under what the former known as the state of Biafra, under Emeka Ojukwu, wanted to break away. And Nigeria is closer to people of Northwest and Southwest. Because of that, I just fear that if Cameroon is under federation, the people of Northwest and Southwest will one day copy from Nigeria and Congo to break away. And that influenced Aejo to change Cameroon from federal to unitary in 1972. But now, if we are under unitary from 1972, even to present, and people of Northwest and Southwest are still advocating to break away, it means that we should go back to the two-state federation and respect the bicultural, the colonial heritage.
Okay,
I think Cameroon will remain one under federation. There's no proliferation, no secession.
We out.
The truth is God.
Okay.
You can only kill the teller and not the truth. When you kill the teller, the truth remains to haunt you. And until the lion produces its own historian, the story of the hunt will always be told to glorify the hunter. Dear President Paul Biya and dear people of Cameroon and Anglophones, let us together sit on the table and focus on the women, children, mothers, youth who are being killed on a daily basis. Unity, strength, and let us keep aside our egoism and look for mutual dialogue and concessions for the common child who should have been president of Cameroon. But because of the fact that schools are not going on, businesses are not opening, hospitals are not in those trouble-hit areas, the future of Cameroon is in the blink. It is time for us to look at what we stand for. Land of glory, land of promise. Regardless of the two songs, they have glory. Let us stand for glory.
Let us stand for glory. Tomorrow, 7 p.m., we are going to be discussing this call by Professor Dieudonné Issoumba, who is saying that the sure way out of this crisis is a confederation for Cameroon. We equally are going to be looking at a call by Human Rights Watch for sanctions to be meted out on those involved in gross human rights violations in the troubled Southwest and Northwest regions. We want to thank you, Dr. Nick, for answering present for today's edition.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to come on this platform, and I use it most of the time as if it were an amphitheater to try to give us some principles by which we should live and think.
Also, thank you to you, Tamai Jarvis, for answering present today.
Thank you, and thanks to the management of BT Media.
And to you, Mr. Nji, thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure coming.
Also, thank you to you, Gentle, all the way from Boya.
Thanks very much, Mr. Moderator. And I wish that you should invite me to be here again tomorrow before going back. I wish you should invite me so that I will learn a lot from my doctor and many other learning colleagues.
I don't know whether doctor is going to be there, but doctor, since we are talking confederation, yes, as proposed by Mr. Professor Dieudonné Issoumba,
who is coming before doctor. He's coming after doctor.
Yes, because he is talking about what you have.
That's correct.
So I think I don't know whether you are going to be there tomorrow.
Yeah, I didn't. If our listeners are not too bored seeing me, I would like to come because actually I'm the master of confederation. So we should come and talk about it.
We are going to look at what Professor Issoumba is proposing, and then in line with what you are also proposing. We want to thank you all who took time off to follow the program, and to the production team, Desmond, Paul, and Eli, and those at the broadcasting. We say special thanks to you. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.